Let's talk a bunch of different topics.
How'd her career get there?
This is a podcast with Lauren Asghari. This is the Lauren Asghari podcast, How'd Her Career Get There? And my guest today is Theresa Leatherbury, who is the president and CEO of Rachuba. Welcome.
Hi, Lauren. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm thrilled to have you here. Obviously, we know one another from different circles, but I've never had the privilege of really learning deeply about your company or your background. So I'm really excited to do this. So let's jump right into it. Let's start present day. Tell the audience what Rachuba is in just a couple of sentences.
Sure. Thank you. And I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for inviting me here. I'm really honored that you would think that I would be somebody that other people would find interesting. So I hope that it's still okay. Rachuba is a real estate firm. We do a lot of different aspects of real estate. We do property management, construction management. We do some ground up home building. Rachuba is a third generation business started by my grandfather. My grandfather came down from Long Island probably shortly after World War II as a bricklayer, then got into investment and building and developing as being part of the real estate industry in Baltimore, and really built up a great business. My father started working for him. My father was a son-in-law, not a direct descendant. Then my father had his business. There was my grandfather and my father's business were combined forces, and then there was a split. There was a family split at some point. So my father created his own business, and I was invited to come work for him in 2005. So we have done everything from ground up land development to home building to office buildings to hotels to a travel plaza. Towson Town Center was something that my grandfather started, those types of things. So we've been all over the map throughout the years. And through the years, we've kind of grown and come back down to so now we're on the smaller side again. And we're doing just some smaller projects, but mostly property management and construction management.
I love it. And I love real estate. I have a side passion for real estate, so I'm excited to get more into the industry in general. But let's back up and talk about you. So give a little bit of context. Like Theresa is a little girl. Where were you? Where did you grow up? Did you have siblings? What were you like as a kid? Let's start there.
Sure. I grew up in the Howard County area, one of four. I was number 3. I still say the third child is the best child. best behaved child.
or the kind of ignored one, so nobody notices all the bad stuff you're doing.
That's kind of why I say that, because I didn't raise a fuss, so they just kind of forgot about me, so I just kind of muddled along that way. Grew up in the Howard County area, went to some local private Catholic schools in the area. I grew up, my sport of choice was horseback riding. And it was something that my mother got us into when we were I was probably 3rd grade or something. When we got into horseback riding, it was a passion that she had, so she got all 4 of us into it. It turned out that my sister and I lasted a little bit longer into it than I kind of backed out. My sister is still actually in the business. And that was what I did growing up, was spent a lot of time riding around doing horse shows and competing in horse competitions. Then, let's see, what else? Then I went away to college. I went to a small college called Lebanon Valley College, and I studied actuarial science. I was going to be an actuary. I had no idea I was going to be in the family business. And that was where my career kind of started, was in the actuarial science world.
Now, when you were a kid, did you have an idea of like what you wanted to do pre-college? I'm talking about like when you were, little Theresa, 8 years old, running around. What did you aspire to be at that time, or did you not know?
I don't think I really knew. I don't really think I knew. I did know that I studied hard and I wanted to work hard at school, and that was important to me. There was probably at one point, when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, that maybe I wanted to be a teacher. I enjoyed spending time in the younger grade classrooms and helping out with the teachers at some point. When I got a little older, I want to say probably into middle school, early high school, the fiction books that I would read. I was always drawn to the fiction books where there was a strong, successful businesswoman. And that was who I wanted to be. I didn't know what that was or what that looked like, but I think I want to be a strong, successful businesswoman one day. So I think that's probably, if you go back to my childhood, that's what I wanted to do.
So let's fast forward. So you go to Lebanon Valley, you think that you want to be an actuary, and you graduate college and go do what?
I was an actuary for 18 years.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know. Okay, there we go. I'm learning. I didn't know that.
And I completed all of the requirements to be a fellow of the Society of Actuaries, which is the top designation in the field. I was a principal of an international consulting firm.
Now I don't want to, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but for anybody out there that doesn't know what an actuary does, can you say just what that profession is?
An actuary is basically someone who analyzes financial risk management. And what that means is that we look at certain risks and we apply a dollar amount to what that risk could be. Most actuaries will work for insurance companies, and we are the ones behind the scenes calculating what the premiums are, because we are determining the probability of certain risks happening and what the dollar amount would be of that certain risk. Then with interest discounting and all that kind of stuff, you come up with premiums. I was working on what was called defined benefit pension plans. So my risk was, how much will people need in retirement? What will they get paid and how long will they live? Defined benefit pension plans started to shrink through the course of my career. The IRS and the Department of Labor effectively legislated them out of existence for all but government plans and union plans, because they exempted government and union plans from all of their rules and regulations. So I saw the field really, really shrinking. As I was looking at that, I was thinking, what was I going to do? Was I going to completely switch my focus as an actuary, maybe go into property and casualty insurance or life insurance or do something different? And I was brainstorming or talking to my father about it, and he said, well, why don't you just come work for me? And I thought, I didn't know that was an option. Didn't know that I could do that. Had no idea about the business. I came into the business, and I really don't know that he knew if I was going to be good in the business either. I think he knew that my two brothers, he's working with my two brothers, that they really weren't going to lead going forward. I don't know if he knew I was going to be able to or not, but I think he knew he needed a succession plan. And that was one of the reasons that he invited me in. And he and I have always been very close. I mean, he was just my rock and my motivation all growing up. So I was really honored to be able to work with him. And that's how I ended up in the family business.
So when he comes to you and says that, were you thinking immediately, like, were you jumping at the opportunity? I'm always curious about, I've never worked in a family business, but I've talked with people that have, the family dynamics. Like, was that at all on your mind, or you were thinking, no, this is something that's we're going to take the shot at?
It was definitely on my mind. I didn't know what my role was going to be. I think if I look back on it, I would say the one biggest mistake that I made getting into the business is I didn't ask him, what do you want me to do? What are my roles and responsibilities? When I got into the business, I just started trying to learn all the different things, but the family dynamics definitely played a part, because I was crossing lanes with my brothers in a way. One of them was fine. We kind of were on the same page, and we had a similar vision. The other one was, you're butting heads with me. I'm not, we're family. We're not a corporate. You're bringing corporate ideas, and we don't do things this way because we're family. And that was a challenge for me for a really long time. So I did hesitate because I didn't really know what it meant. But at the same time, I was excited. I didn't want to lose an opportunity if it was going to be, it was a good thing. It was one of those, if I didn't do it, I probably would have regretted the choice of not joining the business. And that was where it was.
So if we go to, so that was 2005, you said you joined? Okay, so we're 15, 16 years into you being part of the business. Kind of talk about your early days there. And this is an open-ended question. Your early days there, lessons learned along the way and how you think you've progressed as a professional in that 15, 16 years, sprinkled in with like guidance that you might give somebody else coming into a family business and kind of coming up their curve over time.
Sure. Yeah, sure. When I first got into the business, like I said, I was trying to learn all aspects of the business. At the time, we were doing some big land development jobs and we were selling finished lots to builders. This was before the market crash. That really kind of crashed our business, was we were spread a little too thin there. But for the first 3 or 4 years, I spent a lot of time spending time with both of my brothers, both on the job sites and in the office. We also had properties that we owned, apartment communities that we owned, but we were not managing them. We had a third-party property manager. I also sat with one of the property managers regularly and just listened to her and learned a lot from her.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things that really got me into the business, was just listening and learning. Then finding industry associations, education, as much as I could to go beyond what I could learn in the company and expanding it out through other resources. That was what I really did, and I really got to know the business. Still didn't really have a clearly defined role, but I was the one who would look at the financials. I was working with the accountant because I was the one who knew the numbers, and I could look at spreadsheets and I can analyze the numbers and do all those kinds of things. So I would pull my actuarial skills into the business a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. But I also knew that we were missing a strategy. We were missing a strategic plan. I had conversations with my father about that, where, vision and mission, we didn't really have that clearly defined. He and I would talk about that a lot. We agreed that was necessary. We were never successful in getting it done because not everybody really bought into that or really knew how to do it. So one of the lessons learned in that process was hire people, hire consultants. We're always trying to do things ourselves. And I think I grew up I was always independent. I could always do it myself. My brothers were the same way. It was just like, you can just kind of think about it and do it yourself. You don't need help. Boy, was I wrong about that. And I really think I tried pulling in some consultants throughout the years, and we did have some consultants come throughout the years help with that. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. But getting back to what I was first learning, I really found that I enjoyed the property management side of it. I loved managing the people. I loved managing the customers that we had, our residents. And in 2007, I thought, we don't need a third-party property manager. We can do this. So I was the one who actually started our in-house property management business in 2007 and brought our properties under management. And we focus really on managing our own properties. We haven't been expanding that, but now I'm ready to venture out for other people to do that. So that was really what I learned was it's a great business. We've hired some great people to do it. But the real lesson learned is go out there and learn from other people. I joined 2 industry associations, got into leadership in both of those industry associations, because that's how I think you really get to know people. You can join networking groups or you can join industry associations, but if you don't actually get involved in committees, on the board, on leadership, you really don't get to know the people. And it's the people that are the greatest resources in these industry associations. I've learned so much from so many people out there, and I've really gotten to be friends with a lot of different people too. So that would be my advice. Find that industry association and just get involved.
Don't just sit there. Don't be a member. You have to be a participant.
Exactly.
Yep. So let's go, because you said something there that I want to go a little bit deeper on, and maybe it leads to another question. What, as a business owner, would you say are some of the lessons learned or underbellies of being a business owner that you've just experienced? Challenges?
I think one of the hardest things for me as a business owner, and I'm still working on myself on this, is the people relationships. I've evolved over the years on how to manage people, how to work with people, how to have empathy, how to encourage, how to help them grow.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really necessarily grow up with learning how to do that. And going into the industry and and reading a lot of books and learning from other people and talking to other people, I realized that no matter what business you're in, it's your people. And if your people are your greatest champions of your company, if your people are willing to be creative and innovative in how they do things, bring in suggestions, and then we as leaders have to be open to listening to those suggestions,
Mm-hmm.
that's really how the business is going to grow. And the other thing that really was interesting for me was, again, I go back to the thought of trying to do strategic planning and visions and missions. And I struggled for so many years because I was thinking, okay, I have to get my father, I have to get my brothers, we need to work on this together. And we were just never on the same page. And my father passed away in 2015. So that was we weren't able to do that with him. What I realized was this missing piece again, going back to the people.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an incredible team right below the family level. And I hadn't thought to bring them in, sort of tangentially. There was my regional manager, Tracy, who I would talk to and bounce ideas off of, but never pulled that team into the strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2020 was the year. What am I doing? That was my aha moment. What am I doing trying to do this without the people who are actually doing the hard work every day? And that is exactly what I did. And that was a big lesson learned for me, was on the strategic planning, bringing the team in. I also have been working on myself. I hired a personal coach as another thing that I think I had missed out on for many years. I never really had a coach or mentor. I did hire somebody, and I've been working on me as a leader. And that's really helped me. People have noticed a change in the way that I approach people just because I'm working on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I love that you are an accomplished career businesswoman, to bring it back to you as a kid. But that self-awareness and self-recognition of, hey, these are the areas that I think I need some coaching on, or I need to up my game in, right? Like that self-awareness. And not only that, but being, to your earlier point, taking action on it is huge. And I love what you said about the team thing, because I've gone through this in different versions in my own mind, right? Running a business is, you have the executives or the people that run or own the company, but bringing in all of the other people, it's like, just because you own the business doesn't mean you're going to have the best ideas of what to do with it all the time, right? So engaging your staff, I think, is huge. So I love that you said that. I think that's a big miss that a lot of business owners probably don't take advantage of. All that brain power that's within the organization.
There's a lot of brain power. And you've done that with your organization as well, right?
Yes. And have found it to you get more buy-in, you get more ideas, you get different perspectives of ideas. I think that it gets people more bought into what you're doing. So I love that. You touched on something there that I want to dig a little bit deeper on. And part of the reason that I started this podcast was the mentorship piece. And it's interesting. I didn't feel like I had necessarily a mentor either in most of my career, which sounds like it was the same for you. Why do you think that was?
It wasn't something that was ingrained in me growing up, either at the family level or even at the colleges and universities. Or if it was out there, I just didn't absorb it. If the message was out there that you should have that, I for some reason just didn't absorb it. It just was never thought. I was always I guess going back to being the third child. My mother would always tell me, oh, you're so independent, you're in your own world, you do your own thing. So I'm hearing in the back of my head, you can do this all by yourself. You don't need help.
Mm-hmm.
So I've incorporated all of that into that. And then I would also get from my father and my grandfather, because I did well in school, they would say, you're smart, and they were trying to be encouraging to me, but I think hearing that turns into, I have all the answers and I'm the one who's right and I don't need to listen to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were trying to be encouraging to me, ended up, I internalized it in a way that ended up being not beneficial to me. If
Did
that
you
makes sense.
100% understand what you're saying? Did you view, because I don't want to put words in your mouth, did you view asking for help as like as a weakness, or that you should know all the answers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if I didn't know, I could find it myself.
You can figure, yep.
I could figure it out.
Right.
Myself.
You're smart. I'm air quoting. You're smart enough to figure it out. You don't need to ask. You're smart
Correct.
enough to figure it out.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm totally with you. Take us back to, because obviously 2020 was a challenging year for a lot of businesses, but I want to go out to go back, if you can share any perspective on 2008, 2009. Was that a challenging year for your business, just with the economy? And can you spend just maybe 30 seconds touching on that? Because I'd like to share some perspective about where the world was and how detrimental that thing was for a lot of businesses, the economic crash.
Economic crash back then. Our business before the real estate crash, we had 3 large land development jobs, and we were successfully selling finished lots to builders, and we were doing really well, and we had a great long-term plan. There was this mindset that the real estate market, it's never going to crash, because as prices go up, mortgages are going to get more creative, and they're going to be longer, and they're going to be all. So there was this mindset, and I kept thinking, I was new enough to the business to be a little hesitant to ask questions, but in the back of my mind, I've thought about some of the deals that we were working on, and it didn't intuitively make sense, but I didn't know how to ask the right question, because I was hearing from my brother and my father that, everything's going to be okay. Actually, more from my brother. My father was a little nervous too.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the real estate market just crashed, builders stopped buying, people stopped buying houses, builders stopped buying finished lots. Our builders walked away from us. We had all this land, we had all this debt on this land. We had infrastructure that we've put into, so we had bills we had to pay to our site contractors, and everything just crashed, and all of a sudden we didn't have any way to get through it. Mm-hmm. We tried a couple of times to say, okay, well, this builder, large, national builder, walked away from the deal. Well, we're home builders, we can just start building. And I'm thinking, we can't. We don't have the marketing infrastructure that these national builders have. If they can't sell houses, how are we supposed to? And again, I didn't stand up and wave and say, no, we're not doing it. I just kind of went along with it. And that was me being so green and so new into the business to really sort of stand up and ask. And we basically lost ownership to a lot of that land. We had to work things out with banks. We were able to stave off bankruptcy. We didn't go that far, but we had to work out some deals. And now all of a sudden, all we have are 900 apartment units that we're managing, and that's it. There was nothing left for the longest time. Mm-hmm. And we struggled and we struggled and we struggled. And we still have, without really taking back and saying, okay, now's the time to do strategic planning. Let's really think about it. We didn't have a plan in place for failure. We didn't have that backup plan at all. And it still took a long time for anybody to sit down and say, okay, well, what's our plan going forward? We just kept plugging away. Let's try this, or let's try this, and let's try this. And it wasn't until I finally said, we need to sit down and do a strategic plan. Mm-hmm. We need to sit down and figure it out. And when I did that, I brought it to my brothers, and I have a sister also who's sort of tangentially involved in the business. And we all met with this advisor. Let's talk to this advisor. It's not only about the business planning, but it's the family, it's the succession, it's all this kind of stuff. And they really liked this consultant that we talked to, and we were going to move forward with it. And I finally sat down one day and I said, okay, what I need you to do is I need you to give me this information, give me your ideas of your vision and all that kind of stuff. We're going to pull it together and we're going to start working with this consultant. And I got this sort of hemming and hawing from one of my brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we really don't need it. If you want to do it your way, well, you can do it. I don't want to be involved. You want to run the business, you run the business the way you want to run the business. And at first I was hurt, felt dejected, like, wait a minute, we had agreed to do this. So I finally took that and I said, okay, I'm going to take a deep breath. And what I'm going to say now is thank you for the permission to run the business.
Mm-hmm.
I had been always asking and looking for approval before I did anything. And that was another kind of aha. Okay, I don't need everybody's approval. I was named president and CEO. My father named me that when he passed away. I need to start acting like I'm the president and CEO. And that was when I said, okay, let's take a look at the strategic plan. Let's bring the team in, that's the leadership team in, and let's not focus on the family trying to get this done.
And how did all of that, if it did, matter or affect either your mental way that you approach problems, but how did that matter in 2020?
It mattered in 2020 because that was what I was able to focus on in 2020. I was able to say that this was the focus of the coach that I hired and the strategic plan. I put a lot of effort into that, and I'm still working on it a lot into 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to do that and actually accomplish a lot because I didn't have to go back and get the okay and the approval from that perspective from the family. I kind of wrapped my mother into that a little bit too because she's the one who owns the assets that we manage.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a little bit of that family dynamic in there as well. But I was able to just say, now I can do this. I'm going to move forward with what I need to do. The other thing that it really clarified was my brother and I ended up staying in our own lanes, is I like how to describe it.
Yep.
We were butting heads for too long because we were trying to cross into each other's paths. So another thing that we had this conversation, this was sort of a brave conversation for me because I was always afraid to do this. He would say to me, go ahead and do your strategic plan. Just make sure that I'm good with what you have going forward. And I said, no, wait a minute. I said, if I'm going to be in the field getting all bloodied and sweaty and dirty, you're not going to sit up in the stands and say, oh, you did that wrong. You're either going to be in the field with me and getting bloody and dirty with me, or you're going to trust that I'm doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that conversation with him, and that was a wake-up call, I think, for him.
Mm-hmm.
To say, okay, go do the business. So that was a coaching, Ben. That comes from Brene Brown. I don't know.
I am such a Brene. I'll share this real quick because you brought her up. For our onboarding, for all of our internal staff, when we start them, everybody watches a 5-minute Brene Brown video about clear as kind and your armor, all of that. So I'm such a fan.
Awesome.
But go ahead.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's what my coaching is all around, her work.
I love
so
that.
I was able to use that analogy to say, I'm the one who's getting all bloodied and messy and all that kind of stuff.
I love that.
Let me make the mistakes and let me move it forward, and you just kind of stay in your lane. And he agreed to that, which is great because we are working so well together today. The staff notices it, people notice it. I think that also might be another reason that I'm happier and I'm able to, handle people manage people a little better because I don't have that conflict constantly in my work life.
I love that. And I love that the point that you're reinforcing also for everyone is addressing whatever it is, right? And coming up with a plan and a solution. And if you have, whether it's family dynamics or other workplace dynamics, addressing those as best you can to then, right. So everybody is on the same page. I love your point, staying in your lane so that everybody is moving to accomplish the same thing. I wanted to back up a little bit. What would you say from either your mom or your dad together or as individuals, however you want to answer it, but what would you say is the biggest lessons that you've learned from your childhood that carry through to who you are today?
The biggest lesson, and I would take this from my father, is the importance of giving back to the community. He was involved in so many things in the community, giving back. He was well respected in a lot of different ways. And he was the one who got me involved in getting in organizations, the first thing he got me involved in was there was a young professionals group at the Aquarium. That was my first giving back thing. He got me on the board of my high school. I went to Notre Dame Prep. He put me on the board there. He was on the board for years. It was that mindset that you give back, time, talent, and treasure, all of that you're constantly giving back. And that's now my guiding vision in everything that I do, because I want the business to be successful. Yes, selfishly because I want to be successful, but also that we have a means to give back. My father wanted to fund a family foundation, and he was going to use the proceeds from one of the land development deals that we did to really fund the foundation. Well, obviously that didn't happen. And now I've taken that vision that he's had, and now I want to do it. And my goal is to be able to use success from the businesses to fund that foundation so that we can be part of the community. So I think that was a really big thing, is it's not all about me. It's not all about us. It's all about, we're part of a larger community, and we're not going to change the world, but we can change our little piece of it that we can have an impact on.
I love that. I'm such a big proponent of, I call it the ripple effect, so I have no other name for it, but you impact a community or a person, and then they have a kid or they have a cousin or whoever they have that then they impact and they impact and they impact, and so on and so forth, so that your little effect that you make ends up having ripple effect long beyond what you even know, right?
Yeah, I love that terminology too. It's just because it just keeps going.
Yes.
And going.
Yes.
And you don't even realize what impact you have, but it's there.
That's true. I love that. I have two more questions before I get to rapid fire. My first one is, what advice would you give your younger self?
It would have to be not to be afraid to ask for help. It would have to be, find that mentor, find that coach, find that person that you can bounce ideas off of. Don't be afraid to run ideas by somebody that you trust. So it's that mentor coach that I would encourage, and I'm trying to encourage my kids to not lose sight of that. My kids are both in their 20s right now.
Right. Gotcha. Never too old, never too young to learn.
Right.
And my second question, how would you define success?
That's a good question. I used to think that success had everything to do with about how much money that you make. And I don't feel that that's as important anymore. Obviously, you want to be comfortable. I define success as, being able to travel comfortably and things like that. But I really define success about the legacy that you can leave in the community. What does that mean? The legacy that you can leave for your kids, the legacy that you can leave for your employees, and the legacy that you can leave in the community would be a definition of success.
I love that. How do people, I'm going to get to rapid fire next, which has nothing to do with what we've talked about at all. But before I do that, what's the best way to get in touch with you? If people want to connect, what's the best way to find you or learn more about your company?
My website is up there, rachuba.com, rachuba.com. It is still a little bit in development. We're trying to improve that. And also my email, which is my last name, first initial, leatherbury@rachuba.com.
Gotcha.
Ways to get hold of me.
Perfect. And before we get to rapid fire, is there anything else that you want to touch on or talk about that we haven't talked about yet?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You covered everything.
Before I do rapid fire, I want to mention one more thing, because it's a cause that I believe is near and dear to your heart. And I know you've done some fundraising for it in the past. What's the dancing? You do like a dancing fundraiser?
I did it one time. The Alzheimer's Association has what's called the Memory Ball, and they invite professionals, business professionals, and they partner them with a dance professional. And you perform, you practice and you study, you perform a routine in front of people, and you raise money. So I did that in 2018, and they paired me with a professional dancer. We worked for probably 5 or 6 months on a routine. I did a little 2-minute routine to Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer. It was really kind of funny. and I raised a lot of money for the Alzheimer's Association, so it was fun. So I had to perform that dance in front of 900 people, which was way out of my comfort zone. But it was so much fun that I went back to my instructor, that professional, and I said, "Hey, Stephen, can you continue giving me, like it started basics." So I've been doing ballroom dance lessons with him since June of 2018, and we've done a couple of small competitions and stuff. So I kind of got the ballroom dancing bug, and it's kind of fun.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And who would have ever thought that you're doing it to raise money for a good cause, and then it turns into a hobby and something that brings you joy. So I love that. All right, here we go with rapid fire. Netflix or cable?
Cable.
Brick or stone?
Ooh, stone.
Snow or beach?
Snow.
Astronaut or deep sea diver?
Deep sea diver.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
And the last one, breakfast or brunch?
Breakfast.
All right. Thank you, Theresa, so much for doing this. It was so wonderful talking with you and learning more about your background and your company. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you so much. It really was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you inviting me.
Absolutely. I'm going to link up your company name and contact information in the bio for this. But again, my guest is Theresa Leatherbury, President and CEO of Rachuba. This is the Lauren Asgari podcast, How Did Her Career Get There? And we're signing off. We will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.